Are your vocals sounding dull, boomy, muddy, and just not cutting through the mix? Stay tuned, because here are the top 5 reasons why your home recordings probably suck.
LaBella, bring the heat.
What's up, everybody? My name's Chris, and welcome back to another Tech Tip Tuesdays. If you want to see more mixing and production tips, as well as industry advice and or fresh beats 3 times a week, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 mistakes that I see people making in the recording studio and at their home recording studios that end up leading to their vocals sounding like shit. The good thing is all these mistakes are easily avoidable, so make sure you watch this video all the way to the end to see all 5 tips and to see the winner of last week's Free Beat Friday giveaway. Let's dive in. The number 1 mistake that I see people make almost every day in the recording studio is standing too close to the microphone. Now, I don't know if people saw this in a movie sometime or if they saw people doing it on stage and they just think it's a good idea to get right up to the microphone like they're making out with it, and this just doesn't sound good. And the reason it doesn't sound good is something called the proximity effect. The closer you get to the microphone, the more disproportionately the low end of your vocal will be picked up by the microphone. When you're the ideal distance away, the low end and the higher end frequencies are all kind of level, or at least as level as they would be to your natural ear. But as you get closer, you start getting more boomy and muddy, and this makes it really hard to mix it later on. Now, the thing about mistakes when you're recording is if you have a shitty recording, it's going to be a shitty mix. A lot of people think, oh, we can fix it in the mix or fix it in the master, or don't know even the difference between a mix and a master, which is a whole nother video that we'll get into. You can do some things with some EQ to notch out some of that low end, but you're better off just fixing this when you record. Let's take a look at what the proximity effect actually sounds like in practice. So I'm about 10 to 12 inches away from the microphone. As you can tell, my voice should be coming through pretty loud and clear. As I move closer to the microphone, you're going to start to hear it get louder and that low end start to build up disproportionately. Now, some people like to get all the way up in the pop filter, and this is a really bad idea because not only are you getting the proximity effect, but you're getting a lot of extra noise from moving the pop filter, which affects the microphone stand and shakes the mic. So it's always good to stay about, again, 8 to 12 inches away from the microphone. If it helps you, you can move the pop filter further out. And the other thing you can do is turn the capsule of the microphone about 45 degrees so that any air that's not getting caught by the pop filter doesn't go directly into the microphone. Now, the proximity effect isn't always necessarily a bad thing. For instance, beatboxers use it all the time when they want to do a kick drum or a bass type sound. They'll put the microphone either up to their throat or close up to their mouth so that whatever sound they're trying to do gets a lot more low end to it, a lot more body, so that it really sounds more like an actual kick drum or a bass or a sub or whatever they're trying to do. But usually we're trying to avoid that low end in the context of an actual mix of full-on song that's not acapella or beatboxing. Alright, the second mistake that I see people make all the time in their home studios, and I really don't understand it, is using egg cartons on their walls. I kind of get that it looks kind of, bumpy like acoustic foam would look, but they don't really do anything. You might as well just not have anything on the walls, because egg cartons don't acoustically do anything to the sound. If you are looking to treat your room and you're on a budget, then you should be looking for acoustic foam. It usually comes in about a 12 inch by 12 inch square, an inch thick, and that'll do a pretty good job of muting some of the higher frequencies in your room and making it so that there's not so much reverb. But if you really want to treat your room and make it a lot more even and more dead, not too dead though, you want to get some Owens Corning 703, which is some rigid fiberglass, or you want to get some rock wool and put those on the wall instead, because that'll do a lot better job of treating those lower end frequencies and making sure those don't reverberate too much in your room. And that'll be really useful for when you mix as well as when you record. so that you're really getting an accurate picture of what you're actually hearing through the mix. The third mistake that I see people making all the time in their home recording studios is recording in a closet. Now, I get it that going into a closet is one way to isolate yourself from the rest of the room, and it kind of looks like a recording booth, so it must sound good, right? Well, here's the thing, I don't even really like recording booths. I don't even really like recording booths. See, when you put yourself in a box that's probably 3 foot by 3 foot, maybe if you have a big closet, 4 foot by 4 foot, you end up sounding dead, like you're in a box. That's what you sound like. Your voice doesn't have the space to have enough air to really sound alive. Honestly, so I prefer to either record directly in the control room or in a live room if it's available, to get more life into the vocal, because that's the core of the song most of the time, right? So you want to have that feel alive. You don't want it to sound muffled and like it's in a box. It goes back to the proximity effect, that as you're within the box, the reflections of your voice coming back from either side of the box build up that low end and make it sound muddy and dead. So don't record in a closet, just record in like the biggest room in your house or wherever. Record it where you have your speakers set up, just put them on mute. And if you have a studio, record in the control room instead of putting somebody in a booth. And I get it, like sometimes you need that isolation, sometimes an artist wants to be in their own little space and that's how they can get the best performance. And you can work with that kind of sound if you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're just starting out, you're much better off just recording in an open space that will leave your vocals sounding open. The fourth mistake that I see people making all the time in the studio is yelling into the mic. Now, I understand that sometimes people want to have a certain vocal tone that requires getting louder, and if that's the case, you can do that. Just make sure that you take an extra step away from the mic. So instead of being about a foot away from the mic, try to be about 2 to 3 feet away from the mic if you're going to yell. Other than that, if someone's yelling to try and get louder in the mix, or if they're trying to make their voice just louder, they can't hear themselves, there's 2 things that could be the issue. One, the most likely issue is that the beat that they've most likely ripped off of YouTube is not mixed for vocals to be mixed into it. It's mixed to just be as loud as it can be, and you just have to turn that down. Turn it down about 3 decibels and let the vocals rise in comparison without turning them up at all, because the beat is now that much quieter. The thing is, you can always turn the vocal up later. You know, when you're recording, you don't want the vocal to be as loud as possible. You want the vocal to sit within a certain range that will not be peaking, but also not be low enough that there's going to be a lot of noise that comes in from the noise floor. So you want the vocal to be sitting kind of in the yellow range of your meter, where it comes through loud and clear without being too loud where it's going to peak. But beyond that, you can always raise it later in the mix, or you can always turn it down too. So you just need to make sure that you have proper gain staging when you record, so that you have a solid signal that can be used later on in the mix. The other thing that might be happening if somebody's trying to yell while they're recording is they just can't hear themselves over the playback in the headphones. So to fix this, you can either just turn down the volume knob on the headphones, or you can have them take one of their earphones off so that they can hear it through one earphone and then hear their natural voice through the other earphone. And I find that this usually helps them find more of a balance of where they should actually be trying to hit volume-wise. And the fifth thing that I see people do all the time in the studio that ends up making their recording suck is using a beat they ripped off of YouTube. Now, 90% of the beats they rip off of YouTube are not gonna be mixed to have vocals sit within them, first of all. And second of all, they're shitty MP3 downloads of ripped beats that have vocal tags throughout the whole beat. And it's just, they sound really unprofessional overall. Now, the best way to get the best possible mix out of your recordings is to have the stems of the beat, is to get the whole tracked out beat from the kicks and the snares and the hi-hats and the samples and the strings and the keyboards and the guitars all separate, so that when you record your vocals, you can then mix everything around your vocals instead of just recording your vocals and throwing them on top of a 2-track MP3 that's already compressed to and has no space for a vocal to sit inside of it, so your vocal has to sit on top of it, and then it just sounds like ass. It just sounds awful. And I see so many people just, they pay for the studio time to have their song recorded, but they can't pay for the beat to have their song recorded well. You're not gonna get a good quality. I mean, maybe if you just wanna do a demo track, if it's just a quick like mixtape thing that you just wanna get out there. I mean, and sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes the beats that you get on YouTube are mixed well, and you can actually get a pretty good mix out of it, but most of the time they're not. So most of the time you're gonna be much better off if you just grab the stems from the producer. Now, most producers have pretty good deals on BeatStars. I sell the stems for $77 for the tracked out license, and you actually, if you buy one, you get one free. So that's 2 beats for 77 bucks with the stems. It's like $40 a beat, less than that, and you can get the highest quality mix possible. That's less than you're gonna pay for an hour at the studio, and you're gonna be able to get much better mix than if you paid for 6 hours at the studio with the beat that you just ripped off of YouTube. So I highly encourage you, if at all possible, buy the stems from your producers and get the highest quality mix possible, because that's what's gonna make your music actually spread as people hear it, the quality. Alright, so if you can avoid those 5 mistakes, I promise you the quality of your recordings will improve drastically and you will be able to have much better mixes. If you enjoyed these tips, please leave a comment, make sure to like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more Tech Tip Tuesdays, because I will be back every Tuesday with another tech tip. Before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to the winner of last week's Freebie Friday giveaway. Everybody give him a round of applause. If you want to win a free beat, make sure you leave a comment on this Friday's video. Anyone who comments within the first 24 hours will be entered to win. I'll pick a random winner and I'll give you a free Wave download, untagged, anything in my store. Once I reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna start giving away track out licenses every Friday. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell your friends to subscribe, tell people that want my content to subscribe. Share this with people that want it, all right? Peace!
LaBella bring the heat.